Hello, today we're going to talk about the most important objective for a sales conversation, and it is not what you think. The context of this conversation is we were in our foundational 9-week mastermind, Customer First Sales, and week 6 or so, I think it's week 6, we talk about referrals, and I'm asking what is hard when it comes to referrals. And one of the biggest challenges that comes up time and time again over the last 8 years of teaching this mastermind is I feel like I'm asking for another thing after they bought. Like them buying was a favor to you, and now you're asking for another favor. And this is really not the right way to look at this. And normally I'll talk about it in terms of them buying isn't a favor, like unravel that. But then I have this like epiphany, and I realized that most people think when they're talking to someone, the number one objective is that that person buys something. And then after that, any building or additional contacts, like that's a byproduct. So no, most people think the number one objective is a sale. Maybe the number two is a builder, and the number three is referrals. So referrals ends up going to the bottom. It feels like I'm just pushing my luck, or it's extra. It's not the most important thing. And today's big idea is that your success in network marketing will come from actually flipping what is the most important objective in your sales conversation. I've been in sales and sales leadership for 23 years, since I was 20 years old. And when I was trained, and I would go on an appointment, my number one objective was to get as many referrals as possible. Now, in order to get as many referrals as possible, not necessarily as many sales as possible, and I'll get to why this matters more in a second. But in order to get to as many referrals as possible, I had to make sure that my sales process was the most enjoyable thing ever, so that people would want to refer that appointment and feel really good about it. Now, in order to be referable, I also had to make sure that the sales process was fun, it was enjoyable, it was low pressure, the person had choices. And if I knew that my number one objective was referrals, when I went to go ask them if they wanted to buy, I didn't have the commission breath or the desperation or any of that. With this particular mindset, when I was in my 20s, here's an important story that happened. So I started selling knives the summer between my junior and senior year of college in Anaheim, California. That's where I lived. But I was going to college in San Diego, which means I didn't know anyone there. And so I wanted to keep my business going. I didn't want it to end. And so the way I looked at all of my appointments in Anaheim is obviously I wanted to keep being able to do my job. And so I asked every single person, who do you know that lives in San Diego? So my number one objective was referrals. My number two objective was referrals specifically in San Diego. And then my number three was sales. What this did is it empowered the customers to be able to buy on their own accord. I still had a very high buy rate, probably 70%, which was awesome, because my sales conversation was fun and enjoyable and worked really well. When I got to San Diego, I had 7 names. And you're thinking, that's not enough to sell for a whole year. And it wasn't, because when I went to call those people, I got 2 appointments. And my number one objective on those appointments was to get more referrals. Those 2 referrals turned into 15 referrals. And of course, I think one of them bought, one of them didn't. Fine. Those 15 referrals turned into 4 appointments, so on and so forth. And I was able to graduate with over 100 people, like a whole notebook of people that didn't even have a chance to call, because I had already filled all of my appointment spots. So what happens when the sale is the number one objective is overall it feels awkward. You look like you're looking for a reason to change the conversation. It feels different, and you forget referrals. So you might make a bunch of sales or not, but then you're out of business because you ran out of contacts. If you make the referral number one, there's less angst around the sales. So actually more sales happen. Your sales process becomes enjoyable. They feel more in control. They end up buying more. And then you stay in business. In fact, your business thrives because referrals buy more. They have a higher average order and they actually refer more. So here's a different way to look at the people that you know and how they relate to your business. You cannot survive in your business off people that you know. The people that you know are there to refer you to people you don't know. And the people on that like second outside ring, they are more likely to refer than anyone else because they were referred. And so they will refer at a higher rate, buy at a higher average order, all of this stuff. Once you get to that third ring, that's really where the magic happens. Because now you are working, you're not intertwined in that personal relationship. You're literally just running your business, serving people, helping people. You're not worried about relationships and all that, but you still have a relational business. And it's really, really awesome. So I wanted to share that big idea with you today. It is understandably a huge mindset shift, but network marketing and direct sales is really a business about connecting with people and meeting other people's people. As I wrap up here, I'm going to tell you a little story about my daughter. This is not just a skill for your business. This is really a life skill that ends up getting applied for your business. So my daughter is Zoe, my older daughter, she is an amazing artist and she likes to draw these like fantasy things. And so she wanted to draw an entire world, a fantasy world with all these different types of creatures that lived in different places. It's beautiful. And then she got artist block. And she was like really, really emotional the other day about how she wished she had friends that did art, but she didn't know anyone. And so what I said is it's not really about who or what you know. And so she's like exploring engineering. She's going to take engineering classes in high school. She's exploring volleyball. She's exploring all of these new things. And she doesn't know people that know about these things because, you know, she's 13. She was a child during the pandemic, right? Her network is not very big for a lot of different reasons. And I said, it's not about who or what you know. It's about who or what the people you know. And I don't think the sentence structure is so great. And here's what I mean. I said, you don't know any people that play volleyball, do you? And she's like, no. I said, well, you know me though. And she says, yes. And I said, I know April, who is the head volleyball coach at the University of Memphis for years. Chris, who is a volleyball standout in high school. Randy, who is currently a high school volleyball coach. Right? I know 3 people that would be happy to give you information. I was like, you don't know engineers, do you? And I was like, but you don't even know who is an engineer because that's never been a thing. I was like, your uncle, your aunt, Erwin, Chris, right? And I just listed off all these people that I knew, but I didn't know anybody who had art. That's not my network. And so I said, well, what we need to think about is who would know, who knows who the art people are. And we went through all of her teachers and we figured that her language arts teacher would know which kids in her grade were artist types. But even if she didn't, she has a whiteboard, right, that she could draw. Interested in art, come to lunch on this day. And I explained to Zoe that it wasn't about who does she know? It's about who does the people she knows, like those people, who do they know? And so we created a really great networking opportunity for her. And that's the way and she's like, oh, is this a sales thing that you're teaching me? And I'm like, no, this is a life thing that then gets applied to sales. And so I want to encourage you to think a little bit differently about networking as you move forward in your business. If you have a dialed in sales process, your process is going to make sales whether you try to or not. If you need help with that, please let us know. That is our specialty. That's what we do. But today, I really want you to think about this big idea that when you're having a sales conversation, number one objective is other people's people. And the number 2 objective, so you can have more appointments. Number 2 objective is a sale, and see how that impacts your business. I hope this was helpful for you and encouraging to you. And I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.